On today's Locked On NBA Squad Show East, which teams should feel the best about themselves after the opening weekend of the playoffs, and which teams should feel the worst?
You are talking ball with the NBA East Squad Show, sponsored by Game Time. From the Celtics to the Bucks, the Knicks to the Heat, and everyone else in the East, the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bring you all the scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive look at the Eastern Conference. Trash talk and big takes included. No holding back. We're giving the green light. It's time to talk NBA East.
Welcome to Locked On NBA Squad Show East. My name is Wes Goldberg, the host of Locked On East, and this is the Squad Show, where we take over your feed of your favorite Locked On show, and it's an open invite for any host in the Eastern Conference to join and talk about anything that they want in the NBA's Eastern Conference. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Joining me today from around the Eastern Conference, we've got Tony East from Locked On Pacers, Ku Khalil from Locked On Pistons, Philip Rossman-Reich from Locked On Magic, Danny Cunningham from Locked On Cavs, and John Corrales from Locked On Celtics. Open conversation. We're going to get into a bunch of stuff today, but I do want to start with one question, because after the opening round of games from the weekend, the Cavs, the Celtics, the Pacers, and the Knicks are all up 1-0 in their series. Which team in the East should feel the best after opening weekend?
It's the Boston Celtics. It's the Celtics. The Celtics saw their best player suffer an injury. Their player with injury questions about his knee played really well. Their stars got massively outscored by the Orlando Magic Stars in Boston, and they still comfortably won the game. How do they not feel great about that?
I mean, Jason Tatum's wrist makes you not feel great about it, but he's fine. So, yeah, I would contend it's between the Cavs and the Celtics. I think the Celtics get it because Orlando kind of played their game. It wasn't their best game, but it was a typical Orlando game. You didn't get your best performances from your stars. You still found a way to kind of turn around a tough first half and win. I'll say going away. And so I feel like Boston feels pretty good about themselves. But if you want to say the Cavs, sure, I'll accept that too.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the Cavs looked relatively good on Sunday night. And John, to that point, I think the Celtics are like that 2-7 matchup, I think is a little bit of a weird spot. And Boston was, I believe, trailing by 1.5. And correct me if I'm wrong there, but I don't think I am. Because Orlando can kind of come in best of both worlds situation where they are rested, but they're also not rusty because they did play a game earlier in the week where the Celtics hadn't played a game like with actual NBA basketball players since last Friday. So they can kind of come in rusty, but Orlando is not tired the way that I do think Miami was, because it was the third game in 5 days for the Heat on Sunday. But I don't think that there's a wrong answer between either Boston or Cleveland. And truthfully, I think that the Pacers should feel really, really good about how they looked in game one against Milwaukee. Obviously, we will see if and when Damian Lillard gets back for the Bucks, but I thought that was maybe the most impressive game that anybody in the Eastern Conference played in the first weekend of playoff action.
I have to agree with Danny here. I mean, yes, the Magic are maybe not the typical 7 seed. That's what Joe Mazzulla said before game one, but you expect a Boston to take care of an Orlando with all of their flaws, even if they don't have their absolute best. Like, Orlando has to play really, really well to have a chance. Boston took care of their business. And so I think I'm like most impressed, or I think the team that should be feeling good is Indiana, because Indiana is expecting a series from Milwaukee, and to come out and kind of lay down that statement, I think puts Indiana in a really good spot. Now, that series may still be close. It may still go back and forth, but I think the Pacers should feel like this is our series to lose. You know, Milwaukee's not coming up to bite us. I know Dame's coming back, but Milwaukee's the one that has to play catch up on us.
Yeah, I think I'll go ahead and throw another name. I think the Knicks should probably feel really good after what happened this past weekend as well. I'm not going to go with the Celtics or the Cavs because I don't think it's really possible to pick them when we all know like there's such overwhelming favorites. It's like I just feel like it's a cop-out answer. Sorry, Tony, not to take a shot, but
the Celtics were like the worst game possible and won by 17. How do they not feel awesome about that?
But the Knicks, they sustained a game where the Pistons were up by 8 in the fourth quarter, They had a game where Tobias Harris came out and played really well, Malik Beasley, THJ. And in a game where Kay Cunningham was not playing well, they were still down by 8 points, but then found a way to go on a 21-0 run, went berserk. They saw a much better rotation from Tom Thibodeau, I feel like, in this game than they had seen throughout the majority of the season. They got to see the double big lineup look really good between Mitchell Robinson and Cat. Cat, OG Anunoby, and Jalen Brunson all played an incredible game. I think that was something the Knicks were trying to figure out if that was going to be something they could do where they could all have a great game while sharing usage, or if it was going to be a struggle. And they all had a fantastic game, 23 for OG, 23 for Cat, 34 for Jalen Brunson. I feel like, kind of like Philip said, I think the Knicks somewhat expect this to be a series as well. So I feel like it's between the teams that actually like could be in a series. I don't think the Cavs or Celtics, no disrespect, Philip, but I don't think they're really in a series. The Pacers and Bucks and Knicks and Pistons, I feel like, are actually in a series. And for the Knicks to sustain a game where they were not playing well for like the first 3 quarters and then have their best player show up and just lose it for a fourth quarter and go on such a crazy run, I think they feel pretty good about that and not dropping a game that maybe could have hurt them at home. But so I'll go with New York.
Why wouldn't it be the Pacers? Because of all the first round series, I think the one that was maybe the biggest coin flip one, the one that people had the most questions about, was probably Pacers-Bucks. And, you talk about the Celtics winning by 17. The Pacers won their game by 19 points.
They did.
And a game where Giannis had 36 points or whatever it was on 61% shooting. Why wouldn't it be the Pacers?
The Bucks missed like every 3 under the sun for 48 minutes, and that's not going to happen again. Gary Trent's not going to shoot that bad. Damon Lillard's going to play instead of Ryan Rollins. Like, Kyle Kuzma might not ever be great, but he's not going to be that useless again in the series.
He might be that useless again.
That was like historically useless. There's no way. Historically useless will not happen again.
I would not speak in absolutes with him, Tony.
That is, it was really, to be clear, it was something. Bobby
So
Portis.
let me ask this, I guess. Should the Pacers feel really good or should the Bucks feel really bad?
Well, the other thing that the Pacers should feel good about is like they got whatever shot they wanted, like the whole game, right? Like 5 wide open threes in 6 minutes, and Doc Rivers is like, all right, we're down 15-8, timeout, right? They did that the whole game. And Dame will return and make this interesting. He had 35 points and a half against the Pacers in the playoffs last year, but also like Dame isn't stopping them from getting whatever shot they want. Like they have to make a big change defensively probably to change that result. But I just think they shot so bad. Outside of AJ Green going 4 for 11, the rest of the team was 4 for 27 from 3. Like that's crazy. They were the best shooting team in the league this year. Like that's not going to happen again.
Yeah. So like, Tony, let me ask you, like, I feel like for the overwhelming, at least how I felt and how I feel like most people felt, I feel like most people really thought the Pacers are by far the better basketball team than the Bucks. I feel like most people were just saying Giannis is so great that we have to give him a chance. I don't feel like most people really thought the Bucks as a team were on the same level as the Indiana Pacers. I feel like most people were just like, Giannis is Giannis, so we can't count him out. But the team
like half the coverage I saw picked the Bucks.
What do you say?
They're crazy.
Half the coverage I listened to or watched picked the Bucks.
So do you think that's based off of like them thinking they're on the same team? I feel like that's mostly just because we have to pay respect for Giannis, or they were paying respect to Giannis. I don't view the Pacers and Bucks as the same level. I think the Pacers are infinitely a better basketball team than the Bucks.
Yeah, it's a 50-win team and a 48-win team. I don't think it's crazy that people view it as a close series at all.
I don't know. The Bucks were not very good this year. They're carried by one player.
I mean,
he's really good. He's super.
Yeah,
but the rest of that roster is not.
You can't win a series with one. Yeah, I was gonna say the rest. Like they're playing Kyle Kuzma legit minutes, Ryan Rollins legit minutes. We saw like this team. But
if Dame's healthy, they're still not a good team.
But Dame,
they weren't good with him in the health.
Even if Dame is playing, like he hasn't played in weeks. They're gonna throw him in the deep end, and you got to respect him. And I think that's still a big part of the puzzle here. But Indiana has had Milwaukee's number for a while now. They won
except for this specific season.
Except for this,
it was only last year. Last year was the only time the Pacers have had the Bucks number in like the last decade. But to be clear, they smoked them a lot.
Yeah. But like a lot of these series, like Indiana is the kind of team where if you make the mistakes and the repeated mistakes Milwaukee can make, they are going to pummel you and bury you in points. And Milwaukee's defense isn't scaring anybody anymore. Indiana, I think, feels like their style, it's going to make the fight, and they're going to be able to compete and win a lot of these games.
I mean, Giannis dropped 36 on 23 shots, and they still lost by 19. So it's like
yes, their shooters were terrible. That they led the league in 3-point percentage. It's not going to happen.
I don't know.
I think I'm going with Tony a little bit more here. Like, part of this is the expectations of what Milwaukee was supposed to be versus reality, and what the Pacers kind of always coming in with lower expectations, despite the fact that they were in the conference finals last year. Milwaukee finished the season with a better net rating than the Pacers. Like, it isn't crazy that this would be a close series, but it is.
The Pacers, to be clear. I think they should win the series, but like, I don't think they played well. They shouldn't feel like awesome about the Bucks missing a bunch of threes. Like, sucks.
Maybe the Pacers don't feel the best. My next question is, which team after opening weekend should feel the worst about where they are in their series? We're going to talk about that next here on Locked On NBA Squad Show East. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into the player props. They make it simple. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. I just cleaned up in the play-in tournament on Tyler Hero, the over on assists per game. It was like 2 per game. It was like practically 5. That was easy. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Back here on Locked On NBA Squad Show East, hanging out with a bunch of people from the Eastern Conference, bunch of representatives from the playoff teams. We just talked about what team should feel the best after opening weekend. I'm going to leave it up to discussion. Which team in the East now should feel the worst after opening weekend?
Wes, I think you should go first, because I think it's they shot it quite well and had no chance.
Like, they're the 10 seed. Like, I just feel like, as Stu mentioned, okay, they finished 10th in the regular season. They're the 10 seed. I feel like that gets you exempt from feeling bad. I really do. Like, Miami, I thought played well. Wow. They played better than I expected them to. Tony, as you mentioned, they hit a lot of shots. Like, I thought that in West, maybe you disagree with this, but I thought that considering the quality of looks that Miami generated against Cleveland, I thought they shot the ball really well over what I would have expected them to. If you simulate that like 10 times, just they are a team that has not really been all that good this year. I don't know what else could have been expected there.
Yeah, you mentioned before, I mean, it was their third game in 5 days, and they looked really tired in this one. They just did not have the legs, specifically Tyler Hero, just getting pulled into every single action. Ty Jerome, I think his last 3 shots he made to really pull the Cavs away were all just right in Tyler Hero's face. He didn't have the legs, and nobody really did. I don't know if I'm feeling awesome from Miami, because all the things you just said, Danny, like, you could also say, well, we made a bunch of tough shots, and we still lost by 21 points. You know, at the end, they didn't need all those Ty Jerome points in the fourth quarter, but they did get them. They got 5 field goal attempts at the rim the entire game. They had to take 44 mid-range attempts in this game, and they had to make a lot of them just to hang around. I don't know that you could build in like all those mid-range makes on a game-to-game basis. So if you're Miami, like, the number one thing you're trying to figure out is, how do we get back from being upside down on our shot chart right now? Like, we have to get more at the rim, and if we're not going to generate more at the rim, then we have to swap out all those mid-range looks for threes. But as you know, Cleveland does a really good job of taking those away too. So yeah, I don't know that you feel awesome about Miami, but I don't know that there's another team in the East that needs a break as much as Miami, and they're very fortunate that Game 2 is on Wednesday night, so that should be helpful for them.
Usually it's so easy to score at the rim against Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. Oh, dang it. We are in trouble.
I mean, to be clear, they did go 5 of 5. They shot 100% at the rim.
That is true.
Attempts were super low.
Yep.
We took 5 of them.
That's like the Magic going 10 for 27 on 3 against the Celtics. Like, yeah, the Magic shot 37%. That's really, really good. They just don't make enough of them.
How does Detroit feel about punching really hard for 3 quarters and then getting campaigned? I mean, that has to sting, right?
Yeah, I think Detroit probably is up there in teams that don't feel very good. Or I feel like it's a mix of both. The Pistons, I think they outplayed the Knicks for a good 3.5 quarters. Like, I feel like their game plan was sound. Their process was sound. How they attacked the Knicks, trapping and doubling Cade, was sound for a good 3.5 quarters. And I feel like in that fourth quarter, they just allowed their inexperience really showed up. The lights got too bright, and they just once the Knicks went on an 8-0 run, 10-0 run, it just ballooned to a 21-0 run. So I think the Pistons is kind of a difficult answer because I feel like they probably do leave saying we just squandered the opportunity to win on the road in Madison Square Garden, and that has to hurt because they had an 8-point lead in the fourth quarter without Cade playing well. Harris was playing great. THJ was playing great. Malik Beasley was playing great. They shot really well from beyond the arc. But then at the same time, they're probably walking away saying, look, we proved we can hang with these guys without our best player playing well. We have a good recipe. We can do it again. But they definitely squandered away a chance to really put the Knicks, I feel like, on the ropes already early in the series. But yeah, I think there's mixed emotions going on, I feel like, in Detroit right now.
This is why, Koo, I disagreed with you in the first segment where you said the Knicks should feel their best. I think the Knicks might be the team that should feel the worst.
There we go.
Because they needed a 21-0 run in the fourth quarter to win by 11. That is outlier stuff. And I know that the Pistons are inexperienced, and like in the grand scheme of things, as a Knicks fan, there has to be a little bit of like, okay, if this wasn't the Pistons, if this was somebody else with maybe just a touch more experience, that wouldn't have gone 21-0. And now Cade has that. I feel like post game, Cade was like, okay, like it's almost like what's his face, Lethal Shooter. Like, I understand it now. Like, I think Cade has a little bit of like, okay, I get it. I get what's going now. And so I don't know, man. I think game 2, if I'm Detroit, I come out of this with a little bit of confidence, just like you said, Koo. Cade didn't play his best. They let the Knicks get going, and they couldn't shut off the water. Cameron Payne, killed you. That's not going to happen very often. I don't know, man. I think the Knicks should feel uneasy about that win.
John gets the award for best take, I think, because that I was going there.
You share that take with him?
That's right. That's absolutely correct.
Bring Nick back.
John gets the Wes agrees.
Can I just read a stat?
Wes agrees award.
I look forward to this because Wes agrees with me, which means I'm going to be yelling at him in 2 minutes.
Cam Payne and Josh Hart combined for 19 points on 8 of 10 shooting in the fourth quarter. I will bet so much money right now that will never happen again in this series. Like that's not going to happen. I do think the Knicks have to be like, oh my God, we needed Cam Payne to save us on a night where Karl-Anthony Towns was unstoppable. Yeah. And it wasn't the best Jalen Brunson game. It wasn't an awful Jalen. It was a pretty good Jalen Brunson game.
Changed his shoes and then was awesome. That's the key thing to see in game 2.
And we already saw all the adjustments from Tibbs. Like, he's like, oh, everybody says I'm not going to play my double big lineup. Here it is for 9 minutes. Oh, everybody thought I was going to have Mikal Bridges guard Cade Cunningham. I had my best defender do it. I had OG on Cade Cunningham. Here it is. It's like, okay, all the things that everybody wanted to see here, and they still needed Cam Payne and Josh Hart to be lights out in the fourth quarter to win the game.
Considering that was the only close game 1 in the Eastern Conference, it really feels like both teams, they took their punches. They both leveled some punches. They both took their punches. It's going to be about what happens in game 2 to determine what game 1 even means. Detroit, like Koo said, their inexperience really showed. They really look like a team that hasn't had to close a playoff game yet. And how they respond in game 2 is going to tell us whether New York should be worried about game 1 or Detroit should be worried about game 1. If Detroit comes out and the lights look too bright for them again, it's, I don't think the alarm bells will be blaring. I think they'll play better at home as a young team, as you would expect. But then all of a sudden, New York feels really good about, hey, we took a big punch. We came back. We got that toss-up win, and now we're up 2-0. If Detroit answers back and be like, okay, we took their best punch. Now we're tied 1-1, heading home to our building, which is going to be hopefully crazy for this team coming home. That series changes. So game 2, this is probably the most important game 2 in any of the series that we're talking about in the East.
I will say this. I don't see, like, Detroit had their welcome to the playoffs moment because of that fourth quarter. And but I don't think the lights of MSG are too bright for them applies. They had a lead in the fourth quarter of a game at MSG. If the lights were too bright, that would have been evident in the beginning. They would have come out. They would have looked nervous. They would have looked tight. They didn't. They were tied. They were only down 2 at half.
To that point, though, the guys that were carrying them were the veterans. Tobias Harris, Tim Hardaway Jr. Cade was struggling. It took him a while to get his footing. If they don't have Tobias Harris, they don't have Tim Hardaway Jr., they're probably not even in this situation to begin with. I think those veterans really helped them throughout the course of the season.
That's why
I think
they're
that's
there.
a big reason. Yeah, that's why they're
there. Yes, to help them through.
Detroit's not going to win many games with those guys carrying them. They need Cade to step up to the playoffs.
Right. And I understand what you're saying. I just feel like they were able to settle in and have a lead in the fourth quarter. I don't think it was too much of a, like, obviously there were playoff nerves, right? All of these teams in their first run, Orlando, Detroit, these teams are just making their first. Yeah, there's some nerves there, but I think Detroit kind of settled in. Aside from the, oh my God, it's the playoffs, they're making a run, what do we do type of thing, that could have happened anywhere. I don't think MSG is the thing that's bothering Detroit. If Detroit wins game 2, then all hell breaks loose.
I'm fascinated to see how the Pistons respond from it, because I do think it's a real easy thing to do, especially for a team that's not been there and done that before, to say, we really blew an opportunity and allow that to snowball into things maybe not going so well in game 2. I think that the most important game 2 is how Detroit responds against New York. I think it matters to them more than Milwaukee's game 2, because they're going to be able to say, hey, we've done this before. Like, we've come back from a deficit on a much bigger stage than this. We can do this. I think it matters more than Cleveland, than Boston. Like, I think the most important team to play a game 2 is going to be the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah, well, congrats to Danny Cunningham for best tease of the episode. That's what we're going to talk about next. The best game, the most important game 2s. And we're going to go around the horn and talk about some adjustments that each of these teams can make in their next game of these series coming up next. Back here on Locked On NBA Squad Show East. Let's go around and talk about what the next important game is. Koo, you were about to say something before we went to break there.
No, yeah, I think it's easily the Pistons. I think this Pistons-Knicks series, again, I disagree with the Bucks and Pacers being really close. I think since December 1st, the Pacers are 6th in net rating. The Bucks are 13th. That's a 63-game sample. I just think the Pacers are a much better team than the Bucks, and Giannis isn't going to be able to carry it himself. I think the closest series in the first round in the East is the Pistons-Knicks. And Philip, you kind of mentioned it. The Pistons are walking away from this game. Kay Cunningham didn't play well. Jalen Duren didn't play well. Asar Thompson didn't play well. All the veterans played well, but all their young guys struggled in this first game. You figure that despite that, that would have had them down a lot more than they were throughout that game, but they had a lead. You'd hope that the playoff jitters, nervousness, whatever, gets out now in that first game. They come out in the second game feeling more relaxed, feeling better about themselves. And if you can get a better game out of your best player and out of Asar Thompson, he's not missing wide open dunks and fast break in this game. Jalen Duren plays a little better than 6 rebounds within the game. If you get that from them and you get quality play from your veterans, the Pistons have to feel good about where they're at. And if they can win game 2, I think, John, I agree with you. I feel like the feeling really changes based on this result in game 2. If the Pistons win, I feel like the Knicks are like, we really escaped this. We got away with one in here. We could really be down 2-0 right now. If they beat the Pistons, I feel like they're walking away saying, we're just more experienced. This team can't really hang with us. They're going to wilter down the stretch. Pistons win this game. I feel like they're sitting there saying, we really should be up 2-0 with a chance to go back home. Like, we can win this series. So game 2 is really interesting. I want to see how the Knicks choose to continue to guard Cade, because the Pistons, despite Cade not having a good game, the Knicks blitzed and trapped him a ton. But the Pistons' process out of that was really good for the first 3, like getting the ball out early, attacking 4-on-3, generating open threes on the weak side, 2-on-1 at the basket between Duren and Asar. Like, they were doing a good job. Cade wasn't scoring, but he was creating. So I wonder if the Knicks feel like, we don't believe Tobias and Malik Beasley and THA will hurt us again. We're going to continue to play this style, and we'll see if they're able to continue to beat us. But yeah, I think game 2 for sure in the Knicks Pistons series is huge.
Yeah, I want to see if the Pistons win. I want to see the Pistons win just because I want to see what Karl Anthony Towns does in a game 3 on the road. That is like pivotal. That to me is going to say a lot, because if he can't perform in that, even if the Knicks win, that colors their next series likely against Boston. And I think Knicks fans are already kind of like unsure of where their team is. I think everyone's just kind of look, get what you get this season. You got to make a couple of moves. It's gonna, next season is gonna be the season to contend as Boston takes a step back because of the second apron and all that stuff. But if Karl Anthony Towns if the Pistons win and Cat does not have a good game 3 and starts to kind of revert to some playoff struggles from the past, I think that's going to raise some questions. So I just kind of want to see how that goes.
Let's go around the horn really quick to each of your teams. One thing that the team that you cover, one thing that you would like them to do or maybe even expect them to do going into their game 2. Tony, we'll start with you and the Pacers.
Yeah, they actually want to play faster, believe it or not. It was one of their slower games of the season, only 12 slower than that. They want to keep Giannis away from the rim. Good luck. They want to defend shooters a little better, rotating off of Giannis. Good luck. I think he's going to look a lot like that the rest of the series. That's all great. But if they can up their tempo just a little bit, given the shot quality they already have against a, let's say, older, to be kind, Bucks team, I think they'll feel pretty good about their process and the way they're playing going forward.
What do we think Milwaukee will do coming back into game 2? And what's Brooke Lopez's role in this series?
My guess is that one or both of Kuzma Prince does not start in game 2, and one or both of Gary Trent and AJ Green do instead. That bench group with Giannis and those shooters has been awesome. But if you change up the starting 5, you are limiting how often you could go to that bench group, and it will look different completely anyway if Dame returns. So I think there'll be multiple starting lineup changes from Milwaukee. Pacers definitely will not do that. So how that rotational shift changes the way the game flows will be fascinating as well.
Koo, is there something, we kind of already touched on it, but for the Pistons, is it as simple as play better after you kind of get the first playoff game under your belt, or is there something more specific that you're looking at?
So there is something specific I'm looking at. I'm looking at how they decide to guard Josh Hart continuing in this game 2. I wonder if they consider putting Asar Thompson on Josh Hart and allowing a weaker defender to guard Jalen Brunson so Asar can then roam off and try to cause havoc and protect the rim. Jalen Duren got three defensive 3-second violations in this game trying to do that. He did not do a good job at it at all. I wonder if they decide to take the best perimeter defender off Brunson to instead allow him to kind of cause havoc around the paint.
Philip, what about the Magic?
I think the biggest thing that they're going to try and do, the big thing they got to do is they've got to be the one that controls the pace. The Celtics had 26 fast break points in the game. That is the third time this year they've had 26 or more fast break points. The last time was in November against the Hawks or October against the Hawks. They've got to find a way to be the ones that control the tempo and pace. Orlando's going to bog down offensively. Boston's defense is really good. They've got to play faster in the half court to get into their sets and get the ball moving around a little bit more, but they cannot turn the ball over. I feel like Orlando oddly feels okay with what happened against Boston. They collapsed and broke a little bit, but they gave away a lot of opportunities, both on the offensive glass with second chance points and with points off turnovers and fast breaks. I think they feel like if they can limit their turnovers, their defense, when it gets set, they can at least play even and give themselves a chance against Boston.
John, let's go to the other side of this series. What are you expecting?
Yeah, I mean, I agree that the team that controls the pace is the team that's going to control the game. I think rebounding would be an obvious choice, but I'm going to say that I think Tatum and Brown, they were limited a lot in game 1. I think because they tried to do a little too much on their own. They missed some obvious opportunities to kick the ball out. So I think my biggest adjustment is Tatum and Brown need to make sure that they're getting off the ball earlier, getting the Magic in rotation in the half court, and really playing with a good tempo half court wise. I want to see the drives. Tatum especially had a lot of drives where he was going up for contested layups against 2-3 guys. Those are the types of shots that I think Orlando wants him to take. Those are very low percentage shots. He missed kickouts to the corners. Those corner threes on those kickouts are the shots that you're trying to hunt, and the shots that Orlando doesn't give up. They were there. I want to say the Celtics missed 4 or 5 of those. So I want to see those passes being made. And then from there, either those shots get taken or there are swings, secondary attacks, and another kick that really get open shots. That's how the Celtics are going to generate more threes. So I want to see Tatum and Brown getting off the ball a little bit more quickly.
Philip, we know that Paolo and Franz, and we know how they're going to match up against Tatum and Jalen Brown. What about Derek White? He had 30 points in this game. What do they do about him?
Yeah, I mean, some of it is just Derek White is just really good at knowing when to set himself and be in the pocket when teams try to switch on him. And those are kind of the shots you have to to give up and give away. Like John said, I think one of the things the Celtics did really well and weren't able to do enough is get Jaylen Brown going downhill, try and get that weak side defender, that low man defender to kind of step up to him and then kick out to that opposite corner. That shot was there a lot, as John mentioned, and White hit a few of those. White got a few transition threes. That was a big thing. He found that pocket in this way the Magic were switching. I think the Magic are going to live with Derek White scoring 30 points. Like the issue for Orlando is more, they don't have anyone besides Paolo and Franz who's able to score and get downhill. And so the difference between like where Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are at in their developmental arc and where Paolo and Franz are at in their developmental arc is Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum know how to make that pass when the defense is collapsing around them. Paolo and Franz are really inconsistent. They had a lot of those turnovers in the third quarter as Boston pulled away. And so that's going to be, I think, one of the big pushes and pulls in this series.
Danny, we can talk about our series now. I'll tell you what I think the Heat need to do. Start Davion Mitchell.
That's exactly where I was going to go. Start him instead of Alec Burks. I don't understand why Miami went with Alec Burks over Mitchell coming into this series. I would be surprised if that's not the immediate lever that Eric Spoelstra tries to pull. It
has to be. And he's been putting it off. There was even times in the play-in tournament, you're like, Trae Young, maybe you start Davion Mitchell against him. You know, like it feels like he was trying to put it off for as long as possible, but the Cavs, newsflash, are a little bit better than the Bulls and the Hawks. So I think now is the time to do it. And if Burks falls out of the starting lineup, I'm not even sure if he has a spot in the rotation. You could start maybe pushing some other buttons and trying some other things if you're Miami at that point. But Davion Mitchell, just for his defense on Donovan Mitchell, and then as a ball handler to help try to free up Tyler Hero a little bit more. He's a better playmaker and ball handler than Alec Burks is too. So that's the number one adjustment I'd expect in game 2. But is there anything from the Cleveland side?
I think they need to get better play on the wings. Max Strus, I thought, played well. I thought Sam Merrill played well, but Isaac Okoro, I thought he did a solid job, particularly in the second half defending Tyler Hero, but offensively, he looked incredibly uncomfortable on the floor. His first three-pointer was a wide open shot from the right corner that hit the side of the backboard. He had a couple of other really bad misses from three. There was a possession where basically he couldn't get the basketball out of his hands fast enough and get it to Donovan Mitchell when he was pretty open on the wing. I didn't think Dean Wade did anything. DeAndre Hunter missed all 4 shots that he took. They need a little bit more production there. And I think Evan Mobley needs to be more assertive offensively than what he was. He hit that 3-pointer in the first quarter. And I was sitting there thinking, Evans, it clicked. Like Evan's going to go out and have a really nice game offensively. He didn't do that. He wasn't aggressive enough. I thought he was good on the other end, as everybody for Cleveland was in that game for the most part. But I think they need to get a little bit better offense than they did in game 1 moving forward.
We'll see how it all plays out. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA Squad Show East. Thanks for being an everydayer and listening every day. We have a daily Locked On show that covers your team. Check the link in the description to find the show that covers your team every day. Tune into Locked On NBA Game Night tomorrow morning.